call Lacy one of the most creative drag queens in Scotland, although true, would be a disservice. Lacy's also a songwriter, singer, actor, burlesque dancer, and part-time Let's Play gamer on YouTube too. To talk about all of this, how Lacy got started in drag, about performance season, about 2020, I obviously have Lacy with me. Hi, Lacy.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yes, fantastic. Cold.
Yep, I know, I've got the heating on. Thanks so much for taking time out your still busy schedule, especially as close to Christmas.
It's non-stop. It's like, you know, do I sit in bed today or do I sit on the couch? Yeah.
So as I was saying before we started recording and before you seen it, I had the name I was going to go with was Under the Covers with, and then I was going to go, welcome to Under the Covers. I'm host Jason, and today the person climbing under the covers is, and then my guest, but I'm not sure if that limits.
You're not sure all your guests will
appreciate climbing into the bed with me.
Yeah.
I'm presuming no one will probably be, but I was like, if I interview anyone my mum's age or something, it just might just look a bit weird, or a relative.
Well, I mean, I don't know, they could use the extra warmth. Probably blanket on them.
This is true. It's cold. Right, we're going to fire right into it. So,
okay.
Obviously we're here to talk about you and how you got started in drag and performance, but how you got started in entertainment and wanting to pursue that as a career. Is there a moment where it all started? Take us back to when you were but a young man.
Take us back. I'm still a young man, thanks.
Yes.
But, I was maybe 7 year younger man than I was now. I was doing theatre at uni, and to be honest, a lot of the theatre people pissed me off, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into cabaret because everyone there is like healthy and friendly. But you know, and I think it was, the appeal was that I could do like be my own like one man production sort of thing, where I would be in total control of everything and not have to like rely on other people for their creative input or commitments. I could just do it all myself. And then literally I was like, well, I don't actually know what drag performers do, so they must act, they must be in plays, so I just started writing plays and like acting in them. And then I went to like my first proper drag show, and they were like, we're doing 2 numbers and we're going home. I'm like, oh, I've been doing too much.
You had a full theatre production.
Oh, too much.
Yeah.
I would be, and my shows that I ran, I used to do like 15 to 20 numbers. Like I would be on stage for like hours and hours and hours. Way too much. But I think it was a good kind of boot camp for myself that no one made me go on.
So before studying performance and theatre, what was the point before that made you want to do it? You know, what made you want to study it? Were you always interested in musicals and acting and film and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'd done drama in high school, and like before that I've always been like a bit of a performer. Like my first time in drag, I was age 8. Like me and my cousins would put on plays for the family, and I came down once and like my cousin's tutu, and they were like, well, there's a development. So yeah, it was, I don't know, it kind of felt like a natural sort of progression in this like, I'm like, oh, I'm just living like the bohemian lifestyle in like my middle class parents like expensive house in my Craigs. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like a free artist. So I don't know, it just felt like another I didn't know if I was going to be like continuing it. I kind of in my head gave myself like a year. I was like, do this for a year, and if it doesn't kind of work out or nothing kind of comes of it, then you can go back to uni and become a teacher or something like that.
So after you went and seen your first drag show and realised that it wasn't a West End musical production, where did you kind of go from there? Did your expectations drop, or did it become more focused because you knew what it was about?
No. I was like, I am better than them. I am still going to do 100 songs.
For those watching, our cameras are both obviously on the edge of total breaking. So we're having to like stop and start filming, and that's why it might be like sitting here and then just cutting up. Where were we?
I'm just natural. It's just my.
So you were talking about you and a couple of queens starting Mother Tucker in Glasgow.
That's right. So we started Mother Tucker, and that limited us. We were like, right, we're going to do 2 numbers each a week, and that was suddenly a lot more manageable, initially at least. And I think from there I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to be putting out like full one-woman shows like once a month. Maybe I can just like narrow it down, have selective acts that are going to be easier to like travel with and do slots in places. And that was a clever decision eventually.
Mother Tucker's obviously still a huge part of the Glasgow scene. What was it like right at the start? Were there many regular shows like it in Glasgow?
No, there was there were a couple of queens that were like Be Fierce and stuff who were doing karaoke gigs, or they were there was one-off things when Rue Girls would come to town, and then my previous show to that, the Tea Party, was happening once a month. There wasn't like ensemble drag casts in Glasgow. There wasn't weekly shows in that sense. So I think we were like the kind of, I don't want to jinx it because there's always someone that's going to come out and be like, well, actually back in the 80s we did. But you know, there was, I think that we were the first show to get to properly start at that in that kind of scheduling. So yeah, it was a big change. And then after that, the other gay venues, because it was so hard, I never got a gay venue for ages. And I was with the Tea Parties, I was like mailing them and like trying to talk to them and being like, I think people will want to see this, like I think drag is becoming quite a big thing. And they weren't for it, and they were ignoring my messages or whatever. And then the second one venue took a hold, suddenly all the other venues like, oh, we want drag shows, look at the crowds. So yeah. And
you're like, yeah, look at me now. I can choose between yous.
Well, except I've left all my residencies and I've chose between. Now I have nothing. So.
So talking about the Tea Party, how did all that start, and even the name of Lacy Rain as well? Where did that come about?
It's a really boring story. I wrote a play when I was 16, and 2 of the characters from it were called Lacy and Rain, and it was my
really?
Yeah, it was my Facebook password for a while, and I was like, oh, that sounds nice. But I like to. Is
it still your Facebook password?
I might need to check that. That would be a really bad password, wouldn't it? Just my name.
Just your name. Yeah. Well, 1 at the end of it.
Yeah. I think I like to tell people now though, but I did find out that St. Lacy, or St. Lucy, sometimes just St. Lacy, is the patron saint of the blind, which, like, you know, checks out.
That's brilliant. I love how the inspiration for your name was you.
I know. Did you get any more conceited? Well, I think I didn't at the time. I had a thing against like pun names, because I was like, if I can think up that, someone else will think up that. Someone else will have the same name as me. And then I'm like, okay, there'll be no other Lacy Rains, and then there's like this exotic dancer who's been on Jerry Springer and all this. So I'm like, called Lacy Rain. I was like, oh. Great.
Jerry Springer, the top of society, Jerry Springer. It's always interested me because, as you said, with a lot of Queen's names, you can work out what it means. You know, it's based on a pun or it's something famous. So I've always wondered where Lacy Rain came from.
Yeah,
so is it something to do with the rain?
I know a lot of people think that. Well, sometimes when I'm doing like my head party gigs, I'll be like, Lacy like the underwear and rain how wet they get, and then I'm like, oh. People are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, it doesn't make sense, but thank you.
It's from a play that I wrote when I was young. So the Tea Party, how did your idea for the Tea Party come about? What was your kind of vision for it before it started?
I literally didn't have one. I had someone in my theatre class called Connor Milliken who worked at St Jude's at the time, and he was like, oh, they're trying to start this like event. It's called like their intoxicating tea parties. Would you like to do like, so I didn't even name my event, like someone else did, and they were like, maybe we want to like do a drag version. I was like, so we call it like Lacy Rain's Intoxicating Tea Party. I'm like, oh, rolls off the tongue. And then and I was like, cool. And so they were like, so they gave me a budget which was like insane because I had such little practice, but it was like a decent budget at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll bring in guests and I'll do like whatever, and they were like, oh, we kind of want it to run from like 7 till 10. I was like, Yeah, so absolutely. That's easy. And then I think I remember that's when I went to when I started going to drag shows to try and make friends within the scene and to find queens to perform. And the first time I did it, no one was interested. They were all because I don't. Well, that's the thing, because I don't think many people or queens in Glasgow weren't performing. They were up for dressing up and getting pissed or whatever. This new kind of wave of artists or people that wanted to be on stage hadn't yet kind of dropped or was just starting to drop. So when I was like, I'm running a show, do you want to come do a number? People were looking at me like I was insane. But yeah, and then I think it just grew from there. And then I took a break. When we started Mother Tucker, I took a break. And then when I left Mother Tucker, I started it back up again at a kind of bi-monthly pace.
Frequency.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Has it changed a lot since then? I would think that now that it's not every month, it's bi-monthly, do you have a lot of people inquiring if they can perform in it?
Definitely. I mean, I think what I try to do now is at the start, when I started, it was give an opportunity to everyone and let's have everyone have their first time at the tea party. But now there's so many venues doing that, and I'm trying to do with it is create a space that it's for maybe more established performers, to give them, it's like a ticketed event and it's going to be higher and there's going to be headliners from out of town sort of thing. So I do spend a lot of time working on it. It's on a hiatus at the moment for both COVID and for everything, but I'm sure I will bring it back in some way, shape or form.
And I highly recommend watching if you do live, not even just in Glasgow, if you live in the kind of west of Scotland or wherever you're willing to travel from. To go and visit to see one of the shows. They are great, and there's always a bit of everything. There's always sometimes a bit of stand up perhaps, and there's dance and song, which brings me on to, obviously, as I said in the intro, bigging you up. I don't know if that's a gang sign. I need to be careful that I'm not
a gang
sign. Some, I don't know, doing something. What was I saying? Yeah, obviously. People know, first and foremost, you do drag, but there's a lot more behind that than I think a lot of people might appreciate, or a lot of people know about. And as I said, you do songwriting as well, and you perform your own songs, and there's a production and a produced track behind that. Have you actively pursued to try and show people that side that you do more than... This is just more than just lip sync to a song,
Yeah, I think I always tried to incorporate live singing into my numbers initially, because I was I have to let everyone know that I could do everything. And I segregate them a lot more now. So I'm some numbers will be a lip sync, some will be burlesque, and some will be singing. I kind of, from writing music, I kind of have to. There's 3 different ways or reasons that I do music. So I've got my pop songs, which are things that I write for myself and are all kind of my own experiences and stuff, and normally very embarrassing, so I don't put them out very often. And then I've got my musicals that I write, so I have songs that are for in the middle of the musicals that are for specific characters and scenes and contexts, and I've also got my cabaret songs, which are comedy one-off performances that I'll write and build something around. So I'll mix in a bit of burlesque and a bit of prop work or things. So I think I love doing them, and I think that's the kind of, when I'm doing that on stage, I know that I'm this is a very unique act. I know that I'm gonna be probably the only person in the lineup coming out with something like that, which is always good.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned burlesque. Now, burlesque is a reasonably new addition to some of the stuff you've been doing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I've been doing it. It's hard. I don't even know it's hard because of lockdown. I think I've been doing it 2-3 years. I think now. It still feels new. Probably. Yeah. Well, no, but probably 2 years seriously.
Right. Okay.
And I think there were I think from going between, because of the types of acts I do, I would dip between cabaret and drag circuits, and seeing the burlesque routines were always because drag is very, there's a kind of culture of something new, something quick, blah blah blah, give us something new each week, that I found to be detrimental eventually, because I was I'm not creating anything of quality, but whereas I go to these cabaret shows, these burlesque acts have been working on their costumes for months and months, and they've been perfecting this act over years, and it's just like this perfect polished thing. So I was like, I think I need to be doing more of that. And burlesque is such a great way to like structure an act. You don't have to think about much. You've kind of turned into that Miss Single from Pokemon on the cam. Are you okay?
Yeah, I can still hear you. If I froze, I'm still about.
Okay. That's fine. No, and I really love burlesque. Initially, I thought it was just gonna be a kind of novel thing. I'd do have a few burlesque acts in my back catalogue, but when I started going to classes and training and doing it, it's so good and it's so interesting and it's so rich, and it's really cool to be like in a female dominated space, which sounds which is why I always like try and have multiple burlesque acts at the tea party, because I'm like, with Drag Race, suddenly there's this huge like scream for, oh, we want drag, and I'm like, these girls have been doing this a lot longer than drag has been about. Most of the drag acts have come about in the last 10 years, but there's been burlesque acts creating spaces for us to perform in for forever. So
it definitely does adds an extra thing. The first time I seen you doing burlesque, I can't remember exactly what the performance was, but I know it was jungle themed. I'm sure it was jungle themed.
That was with the school. Yeah,
that was with the school. I was like, this is great. This is what I am. I wouldn't call myself a musician, but I play guitar and I'm interested in art and stuff, so it was like, this is what I want to come and see when I see a show. It's something that I class as a show, with lots of different things going on. Production, that's the word. That's why I won't class myself as a musician. What would you talk about? It's good, your bleeps of your camera cutting off is like showing what time we're at as it goes on, so I think after the next bleep we'll go there. But I wanted to talk about a few different things. So one of the things you're really known for, especially on Instagram and your socials, are the wild creative outfits that you create. Fashioning one right now in front of you all, which I didn't mention at the start. But that's what I was gonna ask, when did that, because some of your outfits are incredible, if you don't mind me saying, to big you up anymore. So when did you start when did you start dipping your toe into doing that kind of thing, and how's it kind of progressed from there, and influences of doing it?
I mean, I think when I started drag, I didn't care about the look. I was like, I just wish it could be on. I just want something on me so that I could go and perform. And you can't, I think it's impossible to exist in like the drag sphere for long without starting to care about all the intricate things. And I kind of developed different things that I tried and failed. And I think 5 years ago is when I started sewing properly, and was like, right, I want to make things that I'm not going to see. Again, it's the kind of, I'm always in my head, like, always be the first to do something and always be the unique one. Like, always just make sure that you are something that someone isn't going to get elsewhere, and that can be how you sell yourself. So costuming was like a way to do that. And I think years ago as well, I was just like, I don't care about looking like a female and trying to tell female stories. I'd rather look like it was some sort of goblin or something, or some sort of snot monster. And I'm like, that's my story to tell. That's my heritage. Like, it's I don't know. I think I was inspired by like kind of Japanese street style, and then at other times it's kind of more fantasy and kind of Narnia type, and I don't know. And then through doing burlesque, it was like, oh right, that's a completely like vintage and 40s and stuff. I was like, oh, this is
there we go. Burlesque stylings of that. And then I started doing burlesque, and that's all like different in 1940s and 1920s and 60s, which is just worlds that I never got to explore in terms of what I was doing visually. So it's great fun, and as a result, I've got like no visual identity now of what of what would be like signature me. But I do like to try and revert to like being like pastel fantasy. Do you keep all your outfits?
No, I've had a couple of huge clear outs, but the costumes that I'll use for acts are all at my mum's house, so in my old room.
Right.
There are 5 chests of drawers and a triple wardrobe and a regular wardrobe, all filled with my stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I like to make really weirdly shaped things as well. So it's like, oh, Mum, I've made this bustle that's like a rose garden that it has to remain solid. And it's like, oh, great. Where's that gonna go? So yeah, I don't know. I will run out of space soon again. So I don't know. Check out Depop.
As we're gonna draw to a close for this, I wanted to talk about, as a kind of teased at the beginning, I'm such a pro at this. You have dipped your toe into doing let's plays and drag on YouTube. What was the reason behind that? Have you always been interested in let's plays or gaming and the geeky lifestyle?
I have a lot of free time right now, that's why. I like, do you know what, I actually really enjoy doing YouTube videos. Just in the world when it's normal, it's so difficult to have this find the time and like motivation to do that. So like during lockdown, I was like, oh, do you know what, this is the perfect opportunity to like go with all these ideas that are just sitting on my phone and run with them. And yeah, I love games. I play games all the time. It's like, if I'm not like at dance classes or like at the gym or just like, you know, living a very healthy lifestyle, that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting on the couch playing games. So I was like, well, I'm funny in store games. so I did one of Minecraft. I like to do weird things on my YouTube. So I played some knockoff Frozen games recently. That was the most recent video I did.
Nice one.
Yeah,
we will definitely link your channel as well, so that people can check it out.
Oh, thank you. Not for the faint of heart, and not if you care about like the impressions you have of Princess Elsa. I'll say
I'm gonna have to go and catch this one now. I have seen some wild knockoff games of Frozen.
Oh, they're so horrible. Pregnant Anna, like who asks for that? I mean, this is the thing, when I realised that I was the demographic for this, I was like, okay, this is why it exists.
It's quite good because a lot of people, I know 2020, we've actually not had time to really chat about 2020. But I think we all know them. Yeah, this is true. We're looking ahead. But a lot of people have found it very difficult to motivate to do anything creative. So I think it's quite good that you've managed to turn to something and get rid of a lot of ideas that you had and be able to do it. It's been very easy this year to sit and do nothing.
I mean 90% of this year has been me doing that. Like they'll be like, oh, let's see all this great content. There'll be like 5 videos on my channel. They're like, right. But yeah, no, it's I think when the mood hits and when you're like feeling good, it's like, right, okay, this is the time to do it. And otherwise it's just been like a year of don't push yourself, just vegetate. And now don't feel guilty.
'Tis the season now to vegetate anyway.
I know.
So now,
I know.
Now we're allowed to.
Extra enabling, yeah.
Yeah. As we wrap up, because I have a feeling your camera's going to bleep at some point soon. What have you got? Any sort of plans for 2021, or what are you hoping from 2021 as one just to fire right in? Have you got anything in the pipeline that you don't mind talking about, or are you just hoping to get back to a bit of normality with performing and?
I don't know. Like performing is so kind of like I've shelved it mentally because I'm like if I keep thinking about it and missing it, then it's just not serving anything. So I'm like, my plans for 2020 are to watch my cousin's wedding on Skype, and that's about it really. I've got. I am working on like some new music and stuff right now. Some like pop music. I don't know whether it will get released anytime soon or whatever, but we'll see. Like I'm not wanting to put anything because my diary used to always just be like full of like gigs and dates, and now it's like take Poppy to the vet. I'm like, oh.
What?
That was today. Oh no. No, surely not.
I think Poppy will be alright.
I missed the one thing on my calendar. Oh my god.
We'll put a caption up on screen if Poppy's alright.
She's fine. She is fine. It was just a checkup, I think. Let me check.
It's great that the one thing you had to do is something you still forgot to do. So it's good that your diary's getting well kept, well maintained.
I shouldn't have a diary. Yeah, that's why.
Thanks very much for taking time to chat to people, to chat to me, and give us a little bit of background about Lacy Rain. And whatever you do in 2021, I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and I'll be there if we can, and it's going to be cool. It'll be a better year than this.
I hope so. Thanks so much for having me on your show. You've been doing very well. I love your videos. I
have lost your audio on Facebook, but if whatever you said would have been cool. So I'm going to say bye, and if you say bye, I'm sure it'll be okay. So thanks very much. I'll catch you later.
Hello.